Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 3 and episode number 204 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Today, recording day is Friday, September 8th. I'm seeing 9 and 8 on my thing, so I'm French, so I'm used to putting the year, then the month, then the date. So when they have the date and the month first, I never know which one comes first. It's terrible.
Especially when the number's close. Like if it's the 24th and the 8th, that's an easy one, right?
Then I know which one's the date.
Yeah. But if they're like 9 and an 8,
I am lost.
It's okay. I'm the same way.
It's good until September 8th, or did they expire August 9th? I'm not sure.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, so in Europe and Canada, we do it the same way, but the U.S. does it differently.
Right.
They put, is it day, month, year, month, day, year? But
29th or so. I'm not sure which one, but yeah.
So when they say, in this movie is premiering on 7/6/23, is that June 6th or July 6th? Is it July 6th? I don't know what day. Is it June 7th or July 6th? I don't know.
Oh, man. Kits, you'll have to excuse me if I make a few little errors along the way. I am flying without a script because all my files are on the other computer, which has indeed lost the will to live.
Yeah, it's 6 years,
But basically, you came along and you introduced my old man computer to a cute little young thing, Mike, and they went out on a date, and I think the mic was too much for its bum little ticker.
It seems to be, yeah.
Yes. It was just too much.
The mic was just today.
Too much. It couldn't handle it. It couldn't push any further, Jim.
Jeez, that was awful. I can't seem to get my lighting right today. I'm either super pink or super pale. Unless it's
white man's problems.
Yeah, clearly. There, I got 4 lights on me right now. Is that enough? Does that look better? You tell me. I don't know.
You look better, yes.
Well, here's the thing about that old PC of yours. We have really run it through its paces in the last 3 years. I mean, like we're having it do something that it really, literally was not designed to do, right? So It is 6 years old. you know,
it served us well.
Yeah, it sucks that you got to go out and buy a new one. I mean, really, it might be repairable. I don't know.
Yeah,
I honestly don't know, but
it's more like nobody has the monies aside for a new computer.
no, like never,
It's never a good time to have to get a new computer.
Never. It's like, oh, there's a $2,000 expense I didn't need. It's like.
Yeah. So I don't have the script, so I'm going off memory kits. So if I make a mistake, please forgive me.
I don't work with scripts.
Today.
We don't need no stinking scripts.
We don't need no scripts. So it's Friday, September 8th, 2023. And right now it's a little cloudy at the Beaver Lodge. I hope it will be a nice day because with weather feeling like 36, I have not played tennis this week. 32 is about where I check out. Yeah. Again, I look tropical. I am not. I just am not. Thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mystery from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We have a Friday morning bite for you. There's probably going to be lots of different stuff thrown at you because, well, I've been out most of the week. So hopefully it won't be too disjointed. But here we go. And I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And I'm happy that you have joined us. So before we continue with our show, let's do the most important thing we do. Say good morning to you, Mr. Grizzly, and ask you how your mental health is doing.
Well, good morning, Mr. Beaver. A formal greeting, good morning. Mental health-wise, complex. I feel pretty good today. I do. I'm not going to lie. I feel pretty good. The allergies are largely at bay. But I woke up at 3:30 this morning. I fell asleep on the couch. I was texting with you, and you're like, are you going to post it? Yeah, I'll get that done before I go to bed. So I lied down on the couch for 10 minutes. Then it was 3:30. So I'm fully dressed on the couch, splayed out, the fan's blowing on me, no cover. So I'm kind of cold because the temperature has dropped a bit. I'm like, freezing, uncomfortable. My neck was at a weird angle. I get up, crawl into bed, fell back to sleep at 5, 2 seconds after my 5 a.m. alarm went off. Got out of bed at 6. So I'm undecided.
Okay.
Like, spirits are good, but there's something, how you feel a little off balance some days?
Couple degrees off.
There's something, and I'm not sure. It might be just fatigue. I'm thinking it's probably just fatigue, and that as the day marches on and I get more cups of coffee into me, and for lunchtime I'm going to take a 20-minute power snooze. I think I'll be good as the day progresses. But right now the jury's still out right now. How's that?
All right. Yeah. I don't know how I am. Because I've been
it's been
ridiculously frustrated, as people heard on the Tuesday show. And once again, I apologize for letting out a big battle cry F-bomb.
Yeah, and I thought there's a part of me thought, well, I should edit that out, but it's in the live show. No, the only thing we like to edit out are like long pauses for the audio version only. Yep. I edit out long pauses or long breaks between because, without the visual medium, it doesn't make sense. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave it in because it's who we are. We're human beings. We get upset when things don't go the way they're supposed to go. And that's a natural reaction to a stressful situation. It's the same thing I would do, right?
But then, we get a situation where we have certain amount of time to do the show because, 3 days a week we have shorter shows, and we don't typically do a weekend show. So all of a sudden you're hitting there. It's like, I've got like 4 days of content that's accumulated and still the same amount of time. How do I get it all out?
Yeah.
Without doing extra shows and stuff. Right. So it's been frustrating. But ultimately, you did 2 great shows. Solo, because I watched them and I let you know, and you handled things very well. And then yesterday,
we had a banger, didn't we?
We had a banger. I think the kids liked it. We stopped in and watched it live with you guys, and thank you for all your positive comments. And the thing is to get that 1 hour, there was at least 15 hours work.
Oh yeah.
because what we did the night before and then all that day and then running to the computer store and coming back and trying things, taking the computer apart, trying to clean it, do everything. We did everything.
Yeah.
So we basically that day, it was 9 to 5:30, and the interview was scheduled at 6. Trying to fix things up and make sure. So we did record something. I was a little nervous on the interview. I'm sure the kids could tell because some of my questions were a little long and a little bit all over the place, trying to stuff too much in. So hopefully I will improve that for the next time we get an elected official. Hopefully.
Did you pass on any of the commentary to Mark's
Assistant?
office? Thank you.
Yep. I passed on some of the commentary and I told them that I would keep a list and send them an update if more happened. And I also linked them to our Twitter feed and they followed. So they'll be able to see the comments in real time as well. So
awesome.
But yeah, I think it went well. The kids seemed to like it.
Well, I thought so too. And Mark's a very honest individual, right? That's what I liked about it. Like, he's not going to bullshit you.
Yeah.
And he's, in lockstep with us when it comes to facts first. Right? Yeah. Now, are we going to see eye to eye on everything? Of course not. Of course not. We're human beings. Nobody ever does. But I think for the most part, a lot of what he's done, like I've looked at his pedigree, his career, what he's done. This is a man who genuinely does care about his constituency. He really does. Like, I've looked at what he's done for the city of Kingston and how he's had boots on the ground. This is a good man. This is a good politician. That's about all I can say. I don't have anything bad to say about the man. Yeah. I really don't.
I don't know if that's if it was there before he was here, or if there are things he put in place. But I've been here for a little while now, and my Beaver sweetie has been both now a professional and then a student during that time, and there are services that he's had to access, and there, if you are, I guess, what is considered underprivileged, there are services and funds and things at the city that allow you to access a gym, a city pool, to get some basic health insurance, some basic dental coverage. Or, like, the city had put these things in place. Now, I don't know if these are Mark Gerritsen initiatives or this is just a culture here in the city of Kingston. But the city itself is providing many social services. And he did talk about, his passion for UBI and that. So there are elements, the lack of UBI, there are elements that the city here has planned so that people can have a better quality of life despite a lower income. So it's if he's the one that put it into place, if it was a council that he led that put that in place, well, then that just goes to his testament, which I don't have the data. I haven't got back to the city council files and taken a look, but that, I mean, it was created, or at least it was here when he was mayor and he didn't change it. So one or the other. So that's pretty cool. And viewership on YouTube so far is really good. It's one of our most listened to interviews of the year already within the 24 hours. And that's before we got the podcast version out. So,
which I released at 6:30 this morning. The podcast version is now available if you want to listen to the audio only. And just a curious little thing that you might not be aware of when it comes to the podcast, I thought you'd find this interesting, is the bulk of the listenership to the audio only version is on Apple Podcasts. 67% of the total listeners are on Apple Podcasts. After that, it's Google Podcasts, Spotify, Chrome, and everything thereafter is 2%, 1%. But yeah. Oh, and we have listeners in other areas now. Italy, the United Kingdom, France, India, Thailand, Denmark, Oman, and Uruguay.
Yeah, the Oman one surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like,
all right. We'll take it. Let's say good morning to the kits. We have Kit Jillian, Kit PNC Bio. Bonjour Christian, comment ça va mon ami? Kit Linda M, Kit P, and I said PNC Bio, but we'll see. We like them enough. We'll say it twice. Kit Ellen. Let's see, who else do we have today with us? I think that's all. No, Kit Mike H, Kit Jen, there you are. Hello, lovely. People were happy to hear Mateo's voice again this morning. Kit Donna, that's lovely in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, in the chat, Kit Tim, good morning. Nice for you to pop up just in time for us to say hello. And of course, our old pal Jake is
Hey,
in
Jake, how you doing?
chat. And by the way, kitties, if you're following us on Twitter, your old pal Jake just joined Twitter because a lot of you have been asking, is Jake on Twitter? Is Jake on Twitter? Well, he is now. So look, he's under at your old pal Jake. So please find him, follow him. Let's populate his site.
Yes.
We kids
will,
need a vacation home south of the border.
I will
I'm
seek
sure
him
Jake
out.
will.
Seeking him out right now.
I'm sure Jake will have us all over for a little pool party. Laugh out loud, it finally happened. Oh man. Okay, kids. Oh, so much news. So much news. Now, of course, the big thing is Doug Ford, and we'll get that. We'll get to that. But first, there's elections that have been declared in Manitoba. So we have the leader of the Manitoba Progressive Conservative Party, Heather Stephenson, and the leader of the Manitoba New Democratic Party, Wab Kinew, who are basically will be facing off. There's also other parties, like the Liberal Party currently has 3 seats in the Manitoba legislature. But it's going to be a battle pretty much between those two main parties. The Conservatives are starting exactly as you would expect them to. Let's see. Yeah, Kid Elaine, for me, Jake is north, not south of the border. That's true. That is true. As you may or may not know, if you live in Manitoba, you probably do, but if you don't, Wab Kinew, the NDP leader, is Indigenous and has had a bit of a troubled past, to which he openly admits
Oh, yeah.
and openly speaks to. I believe there was a DUI charge at one point, which really shouldn't be a consideration considering Mo.
Yeah, who killed a woman.
But
Killed a
apparently,
woman.
yeah, but apparently in Manitoba, if the leader of the other party, I guess, isn't a white, allegedly Christian, allegedly heterosexual, allegedly cisgendered male, then all of a sudden DUIs count to your character.
Uh-huh.
But if you're not, anyway.
What did Chris Rock say? If it's all right, if it's all white.
Yes. And then there was a domestic violence allegation in the past that he has denied, and it may be true, it may not be true. I'm not sure it was proven in court. And if it was at a time that he may have been drinking more, which led to DUIs, and he's turned over a leaf, and right.
Yeah.
He has a book out. Kitlan Dam says The Reason You Walk, and said it's great. So, but these are all things we know about him. Right? None of this is, it's not like they did an information search or they did some Oppo research and said, oh, look at this thing we found that we never knew about him.
This was common knowledge. This was
common
open.
knowledge.
He didn't hide it.
Leader of the NDP. He's going into his second election as leader of the NDP. But for some reason, they are taking this and trying to put it forward, and it has some racial overtones.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
Of course it does. It always does. I mean, come on. We know who we're dealing with here.
I know, but it's... Jeez.
Well, they just got to show their racist card right from the get-go, so that way at least we know who we're dealing with, right?
Yeah. But so that's the way that they're deciding to go, and I'm not sure that this is a good look. Considering that the premier and the cabinet decided that they are not going to search that landfill, and that their main opposition is an indigenous man. It seems that they're declaring right off the first days, like, we don't need no freaking indigenous votes.
You remember Heather Stephenson stood up in the
Yes.
Legislative Assembly. You know, there was an Indigenous man. I forget which member, which MLA in Manitoba, is it
I believe
MLA
it's
or
an
DP?
MLA
I
in
can't remember.
Manitoba.
MLA, who's talking about Indigenous rights and land and blah, blah. I can't remember the exact details about it. But then Heather Stephenson stood up and said, "Well, that's lovely. Hang on a second. Let me tell you about my son winning his hockey
Right.
tournament game." Like completely dismissing.
Yep. And it was the province.
So this is what you're dealing with,
and
right?
when the previous premier was there, Brian Pallister, he had to name a new minister of Indigenous affairs at one point, and right in their first press conference, they made some statement about them not believing whether the residential school thing was true or something. It's like, oh, come on, man! As a debut, I guess, especially when they had to let go of the previous guy for making. Anyway, so Manitoba isn't necessarily. Right. Which, and when you consider the number of Indigenous people living in the city of Winnipeg specifically, you would think that the government would be a little more attuned, but it is not.
No.
So they are trying to, say, oh, look at all the terrible things that he did sometime in his past, whatnot, for which he's acknowledged and seems to have made steps and seems to have been recovering, and it's behavior that he has not shown in the longest time, sort of like PM Trudeau with the blackface. Did it decades ago, longest time, realized it was wrong, didn't make any excuses, owned up to it. And his life since then has shown that he has indeed learned a lesson. So most of us in the Black community have passed the sponge on that. Says, yes, we did it. We still say it's bad and you should not have done it, but we recognize that you are not that person who did that today. So we are ready to deal with you as you are today and not as you were then. So it's a similar situation.
You know better, you do better.
Know better, right? So that's going on, and I don't know. Like this is, I think we're going to have. I was wondering, do we have any kits from Manitoba who can let us know what's going on? And then it dawned on me, Mr. Grizzly, that we have our resident Manitoban here, which is Charles Adler. Because he lives in Winnipeg. So hopefully we'll be able to have him on a few times and ask him a few questions and check in with what's going on in that election campaign over the time. But they are not being really nice at all. Now, Wab Canoe. What was really, really interesting and that they have done is they seem to be sticking to the issues, which is really going to help right now. Or yesterday, they made a pledge to add 5 neighborhood health clinics in Manitoba if elected. But in the early days, and I mean this is still early days, the NDP published a full page, I believe, ad it was in the papers, and it was a letter that was written by former Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Chrétien government, Lloyd Axworthy, saying that I'm a liberal. I'm definitely a liberal. But I like WAB.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they took that letter and they published it as a full page ad all over the province.
Interesting.
Very, very, very clever move, Mr. Canoe and Manitoba NDP. It's almost you know what, I'm it's early days and I'm not going to come out and say it, but considering the debut of the Alberta NDP in their election and the debut of the Manitoba NDP, it seems that the Manitoba NDP may have learned a lesson or two. So we would be very, 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 very happy if Heather Stephenson could lose. And there's a lot of rehabilitation of her. There's a lot of people in the media when they're talking about her says, oh, well, like she is much more of a moderate and all that kind of stuff. And, she doesn't believe in all those things. But she won't searched that landfill, and they are talking about similar things to Policy 713 in New Brunswick about outing trans kids and whatnot. They seem to think that their path to victory is going through harming transgender children as well. So, not that different. She's not that different.
No.
So don't buy the snow job. She's nicer. She's not as like. Uh-huh. I know this terrible thing happened to the Indigenous, but let's talk about my son's hockey tournament. Oh, they're in a landfill. Oh no, we couldn't search that. No, we couldn't do that. Oh, we're having a new election. Oh, guess what? Well, hey, look at that drunken Indian over there. I don't know. So you might want to tell us that she's nicer than Kenny was, and nicer than Smith was, and nicer than Ford is, and nicer than Higgs is, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
No.
It might have a more of a velvet glove to it, and she might have a softer voice when she's saying it, but nasty stuff said in a soft voice is still nasty.
Well,
that's
kid gloves, right? But you're still getting punched. I get that they're the 12, the 16-ounce gloves, with lots of padding, but it's still a punch. Nobody wants to get punched.
Oh man. Also, in Manitoba, there's a couple things that may come up in the campaign. First of all, as a decision by the government that high school students who have taken a driver's education program can get a license without taking a road test in Manitoba. Now.
What?
Yeah. Yep. So, for example, in Ontario, I remember when I last tried to get my driver's license, and they still denied me because apparently I'm a menace. It was if you took a driver education program, you were able to move, I think, from your G1 to your G a couple of months earlier. I think do your test 6 months earlier, and you maybe got a bit of a reduction in your insurance. But it wasn't. You don't have to take the road test at all.
That's really dumb.
That's really dumb. I agree.
Like that's not an intelligent move. It's not.
Now, Manitoba Public Insurance, which the second issue is, I believe there's a strike going on there, says that it's meant to deal with a growing backlog of tests after testers, went on strike last week. There we go. So
So they removed the gatekeeper.
Yeah. So they went on strike, and you went on strike, but we can't allow kids to not have their driver's license just because they went on strike. So if you took a Young Drivers of Canada course or something like that, well then, hey, just, once you pass that, here's your license. Don't need the road test. This is Manitoba Public Insurance.
You do realize this is a very dangerous move.
Super.
I know people that can tell you all the rules of the road, all of them. They can memorize that book. Didactic memory, memorize the book. Put them behind the wheel? Nope. And I have friends who say, look, I have my license. There's a reason I don't drive. I'm incapable of doing it safely. I know a number of people like that. I got my license. I got it 25 years ago. There you go. Just because I have it, just because I know, you could recite the entire Highway Traffic Safety Act to me word for word, verbatim.
I got perfect on the written test.
Doesn't mean you're a good driver.
Like a 3-point turn and parallel park like nobody's business. It was all the rest I couldn't do.
Right. Well, and this is the thing. There are many people like that. And I know people who are wonderful drivers, but the written part of the test, they had a really difficult time with.
Right.
Now, is that a learning disability thing? Possibly. Is it a teaching disability thing? Definitely. Right. You have to teach to the manner in which people learn. Tell a fish to climb a tree, it'll think it's an idiot because it can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an old Einstein thing, right? But what it boils down to is you cannot put somebody behind the wheel unless you've actually been able to ascertain whether or not they're capable of manipulating a motorized vehicle safely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a good one from Tim. Who needs a pilot's license? This A380 flies itself mostly. It's like, would you put a pilot? Would you even if it was somebody who's just going to do crop dusting, for example? Would you hand them the keys to the plane without giving them a field test? No. Why are they? This is the stupidest thing. We are living in the most willfully ignorant of times. I mean, I have access to all of the planet's knowledge right here at my fingertips. All of the knowledge of planet Earth available to me right here. Anything I want to learn, I can get it right here. And yet, this is where we are. Willful ignorance.
Yep.
Anti-science. I don't even know if this is anti-science. This is just anti-sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying common sense, just sense, period. Because it's not that common to begin with, obviously.
Right. Oh, man. I tell you. All right, so that's enough for Manitoba for the moment, and obviously we will keep you abreast of what is going on there.
Let's talk about the judge.
The judge,
Judge Marie Jose.
Okay.
Chosen
Okay.
to chair
Well,
the
hold on.
public forum interference inquiry.
Hold on. You can't just jump like that.
You said you didn't have a script.
I know, but we have to introduce subjects. We can't just drop them.
Well, no, I just dropped the name in. That was it. That's all I
Well, I
did.
know,
I just dropped the
but
name
that's a
in.
whole other subject, right?
Well,
It's
we'll get
not
to
a
it.
small one. Okay.
Oh.
So all summer long, conservatives have been whining and complaining and moaning and
I
bitching
need
and
a Kleenex.
bitching and all of it that Canada doesn't have an interim ethics commissioner. Oh no, it's like, gee, this is life in Trudeau's Canada. No ethics commissioner, just the way Trudeau wanted it. Of course, they forgot to keep on mentioning the part where the actual ethics commissioner left because he had health issues. And then the government named an interim ethics commissioner. Now, this person happened to be related by marriage to Minister Dominic LeBlanc. So conservatives made a big stink about that. Said, oh, well, there we go. They're picking another crony and they can't be objective and blah, 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 blah. Well, this person had been working in the office for 10 years, was the number 2. And during the time she was there actually was an ethics decision against Dominic LeBlanc at one point. So clearly, she was capable of doing the job, even though someone to whom she was related by marriage was there, and she had proven it by virtue of the fact that the office had actually rendered a decision against him at one point. But they drove her out of town. Just like they drove David Johnston out of town. And then they spend the whole summer complaining that the Liberals weren't serious about a public inquiry. Liberals have to suggest someone for a public inquiry that we're going to agree to first, and then we'll agree to the public inquiry. And the Liberals and the NDP and the Bloc and the Greens said, no, for this to work, you guys need to agree on who it is that we pick. And then we go like this, and then we agree to the inquiry, right? It's not like, no, you're going to have a public inquiry first. Commit to that first, and then we'll see who we pick. And then that just allows them to hijack the process.
Of course.
So they've announced that we have a new interim ethics commissioner, and about 2 days later, and Mark Garrison was very good at keeping that under wraps because we talked about it a little bit. And then the day after our interview is when they announced that we had the new lead for the public inquiry. So for the ethics commissioner, his name is Conrad Winrich von Finkelstein. Okay. I will not make any judgments based on the name, but Konrad
That's a
Winrich
cool
von
ass name, actually.
Finkenstein sounds like somebody who could be in the play that I'm in. Sounds like a very luxurious name. So there we go. He's been appointed for a 6-month term as the interim ethics commissioner, replacing Martine Richard, who took on the role in April but stepped down just weeks later following criticism because she's the sister-in-law of Liberal cabinet minister Dominique Leblanc. This is pulled from CTV News here. The Prime Minister defended Richard's appointment at the time, telling reporters she had been a senior official in the ethics commissioner for more than a decade and had previously filled in for previous commissioner when he was on medical leave. So there we go, all the stuff that I had mentioned. So yes, von Finkenstein has had extensive government and judicial career, according to Carleton University, where he's a member of the Board of Governors. He was chief counsel during the Canada-US free trade negotiations and oversaw the implementation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, and was later commissioner of the Competition Bureau and a justice of the federal court, among other roles. So, and he was appointed to the Order of Canada in 2022. Hopefully, he'll be able to see it through till the end. We'll see, because the Conservatives are not actually the best good faith negotiators, right? I mean, so, and then yesterday, the government announced. Sorry, I have to bring it up. Sorry, Mr. Grizzly, if you could talk for a second, I would appreciate it.
Well, they've already started to slag this judge. The Conservatives have already begun to slag her.
Yeah.
Because, here's the best part, okay? She worked with Pierre Trudeau at the Trudeau Foundation. Oh, well, obviously she's, except she was a Harper supporter and has donated to the Conservative Party of Canada in the past. Funny how they forget to tell you that, though. They just leave that right out and just go straight for the throat on the Pierre Trudeau stuff. She's a Harper supporter. She's a Conservative member. She supports the party. But she worked with Pierre Trudeau. Because, see, the thing in politics you do is, and this was, by the way, outside of politics, the Pierre Trudeau Foundation, once again, has nothing to do with politics in this country and has everything to do with scholarships for PhD candidates. That's all it is. It's a scholarship program for higher education. The next person who says, well, Pierre Trudeau Foundation, I'm going to punch somebody. I swear to you, I'm going to hit somebody because I'm so tired of people slagging bullshit lies about a scholarship program. It has nothing to do with politics. And if you think it does, we'll have a discussion and I will go full Blue Jacket guy on you.
All right.
So it's Canada Proud who is slagging her already. Justin Trudeau wants to hire another friend of his father's to run the Beijing interference inquiry. Enough is enough. The only way to protect our democracy is for Trudeau to resign, sign our petition.
All right. So the Conservatives are showing that they've been bad faith. According to the CBC, the federal government has chosen Justice Marie-Josée Hogg to lead a highly anticipated public inquiry into foreign interference Thursday, although the details, like when the hearings will start and how much of Hogg's work will be made public, haven't been settled. And that's going to be the next thing that the Conservatives are going to run interference on and, just go limp and make themselves dead weight and take it forever while accusing the Liberals of slowing everything down. But remember, one of the main reasons nothing had started yet is not only that they had not chosen a person that would lead the inquiry, but they were also waiting on security clearances for the four leaders of the opposition, only 2 of them that have filed in their paperwork to be able to see the documentation. And we reported on that and what Elizabeth May saw just a few weeks ago. Public Safety Minister Dominique Leblanc formally announced Thursday morning that the Quebec Court of Appeal judge will preside over an independent inquiry investigating interference by China, Russia, and other foreign states and non-state actors in the 2019 and 2021 elections. She's also tasked with looking at how intelligence flowed to decision makers in the context of the past 2 elections. Quote, China is not the only country that seeks to interfere in an inappropriate way, and we wanted the Commission and Justice Hogg to have the ability to follow the evidence as she is brought up to date by our intelligence agencies, Leblanc told reporters.
And they're backpedaling on that one already. No, we just want to investigate Beijing. You mean China? Beijing's not a country; it's a city.
They always wanted to only investigate that. That's the thing. So here we have a situation where the Conservatives absolutely wanted a public inquiry.
They
They're
got
getting
it.
that, but they wanted the inquiry to be declared before the judge was named. They did not get that. Right?
Politics is compromise.
Yeah, it's compromise. And then there was another thing they didn't get. I'm sorry that it just popped into my mind and didn't. Oh yes, they wanted the inquiry to be limited to China only, and now it's going to be China, Russia, and other places because, of course, they would.
Mm-hmm. So, including south of the 49th parallel, by the way.
They haven't explicitly said that, but when they say other countries, I'm hoping that does include.
Well, I mean, come on, we know.
You never know. You never know with us. You never know. Unless I'm an I'll believe it when it lasts kind of person. So I'll believe it when it happens and the report is actually published. That they looked into the U.S.
Justice Hogue was appointed by Stephen Harper.
Yes.
By the way, she was appointed to the appeals court by Harper, and yes, she's a donor.
But that doesn't matter. We know that doesn't matter because David Johnston was appointed to the highest position in the land on the advice of Stephen Harper.
See, what it boils down to is if you were ever within 50 kilometers of anything that was Trudeau related, you're obviously compromised, according to the Conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you have to understand these are intelligent people who have had long careers, have been in this field, in this area, worked in this milieu for decades. They all work together. So the minute you have some idiot conservative, and I say idiot because an intelligent conservative would never say this, an idiot conservative comes out and says, well, she was within 50 kilometers of Justin Trudeau once, so she must be compromised. No, you idiot. It's called politics. You have to work with one another.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yep. No, you're right. In a brief statement, Hogue said she's honored to helm the inquiry. Quote, it is vital that our electoral processes and democratic institutions be protected from foreign interference. I look forward to this important work and will provide details on subsequent steps in due course. She officially becomes the commissioner on September 18th. It's not clear yet when the hearings will begin. According to the CBC, her runway is limited. According to her terms of reference, Hogue has to deliver an interim report by the end of February with the final report due by the end of 2024. Dominic LeBlanc says the parties agreed that the inquiry should start in the open, quote, so that Canadians will understand why certain highly classified intelligence information has to be treated by law in a confidential manner. He said Hogue can then decide in consultation with the Commission's lawyers which matters she'll hear in camera and which will be presented during public hearings. Quote, the government is dictating none of that. Justice Hogue will make those decisions, but like all previous inquiries, it will be done following the law in Canada. Intelligence in Canada is protected by national security laws. Richard Fadden, who served as head of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and as National Security Advisor to two prime ministers, says he believes more intelligence can and should be made public. I think if she is inclined to be generous, she can protect national security while making a great deal of it public. You and I don't need to know which particular spy did a certain thing at a certain time, the names and whatnot, nor how that information was acquired. I would just urge her to take as broad a view as she can and take advice on it. Now, LeBlanc says Hogue will have access to any secure record she needs, including cabinet confidences. He said he can't imagine cabinet ministers or the prime minister himself refusing to testify if called. I wonder if leaders of the opposition would testify if called.
Well,
they weren't actually volunteering to testify at the Public Order Emergency Commission now, were they? No, they weren't asked either, and they should have been because they definitely played a role in directing the energy. Let's just let this last longer. Let the Prime Minister wear it. Let's take pictures of ourselves delivering Timmies and having brunch and dinner with them. And yeah, all right. The two main opposition parties were quick to claim credit for this. None of this would have happened had Conservatives not pushed the government and fought the attempted Liberal cover-up every step of the way, says leader Pierre Poilievre. And
And while we accept the terms of reference and commissioner for this inquiry, we will not hesitate to call them out again if this process doesn't deliver real answers for Canadians. And the process hasn't even started because her position doesn't start until the 18th, and they've already have their minions going out, calling her out. So they don't accept. They don't accept the terms of reference, and they don't accept the commissioner. That's a lie.
Canadians need to understand that they will do and say anything and throw anybody under the bus. It doesn't matter who you are, so that they can gain a few points.
Yeah. And
they just want power. They don't want to govern. Yeah. They just want power.
And now look at this one, right? None of this would have happened had Conservatives not pushed the government and fought the attempted Liberal cover-up every step of the way. Whereas the NDP MP Alistair McGregor tweeted that New Democrats helped to secure an inquiry, quote, through sustained pressure and leadership. I'm crediting the NDP.
Yeah. Like the difference is rather stark, right? One is based in reality, and one is based in paranoid fantasy.
Fought the attempted Liberal cover-up every step of the way. No, you didn't. You didn't fight the cover-up. You tarnished a man's reputation, then you said you wanted a public inquiry, and then you did absolutely nothing to lift a finger to help that happen. And it's only because all the opposition parties, along with the government, linked arms and stood up against you and said, no, you're not doing this. There's a way that we do inquiries. It's always been this way, and we're going to follow the similar process. We're not going to create a new process just for you because you are throwing a hissy fit or a mantrum. Now get in line. So rather than having
that, I've never heard that
rather than having no inquiry at all, I guess the Conservatives decided to have one, but now they're going to bitch and complain and tarnish it and trash it every step of the way, like we all expected they would, because they are not interested in building. And they are not interested in governing. They only want to tear down and they want to rule.
That's it. That is it. They don't, and again, they don't give a damn about anybody. They keep telling us how Canada is broken, except we're ranked the number 2 country in the world after Switzerland.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, people go, oh yeah, that's a Toronto Star report. No, this Toronto Star reported this. It's from the U.S. News.
Yep.
Oh, lefty Star reporters. No.
Yeah.
No, they're just reporting on a story written by U.S. News.
Yeah. Now, LeBlanc acknowledges Hogue did not have detailed experience in national security matters, but said she'll be approaching the issue with a fresh set of eyes. Quote, we believe Justice Hogue has all the necessary experience, credentials, and judgment to lead this important work. That view was shared by some of the country's most senior jurists with whom we've spoken. Hogue received a Bachelor of Civil Laws from the University of Sherbrooke in 1986 and was admitted to the Bar of Quebec the following year. Over the course of her career, she has appeared before all levels of Quebec civil courts, as well as the Supreme Court of Canada and domestic and international tribunals. She was appointed to the Court of Appeals of Quebec on June 19th, 2015, exactly when Stephen Harper was Prime Minister. According to her bio on the Appeal Court's website, her main areas of practice were corporate commercial litigation, civil litigation, and professional liability. She has also practiced in administrative law and constitutional law. So there we go. That's what we know about her. The Bloc Québécois in particular seems to be pretty happy about it. I have this in French from here. Nous sommes d'avis que le choix de Marie-Josée Hogue, une juge québécoise à la barre de cette enquête publique, s'avère excellent. La juge Hogue possède non seulement l'expertise et les qualités recherchées pour ce mandat, mais elle dispose également de l'indépendance que nous souhaitons chez la personne qui sera aux commandes de cette enquête. Basically, it is our opinion that the selection of Marie-Josée Hogue, a Quebec judge, to head this public inquiry is an excellent choice. Justice Hogue possesses not only the expertise and the qualities sought for this mandate, but she also possesses independence that we hoped for the person that would be at the command of this inquiry. There we go. And there we go. I just did a simultaneous interpretation for you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. I can't do that. I'm incapable.
So there you go.
I can barely talk and chew gum at the same time.
So translating as I'm reading. So the table is set. it's September, it's back to school, the legislature is going to be coming back, and we have the table set with an interim ethics commissioner and someone to lead the public inquiry. Two of the main avenues that the conservatives, I'm sure, had planned on complaining about for the fall session have been removed. They'll still complain, clearly. They'll just turn it around the first time the ethics commissioner makes a decision that doesn't fully crucify someone from the Liberal Party. They'll say that she's in the bag or he's in the bag, and the first time, and well, they've already started tarnishing the judge. So they're of bad faith. They're of bad faith.
Yes.
And with their quote, the quote that I read, so it's very clear that they're not interested in foreign interference. They're not interested in getting to the bottom of it. They're not interested. All they're interested is liberal corruption, right? They're literally doing the Donald Trump thing when he called Ukraine and said, listen, I don't care if there isn't actually any evidence that Joe Biden did something terrible with his son. Just say that he did and leave the rest to us.
Yeah. That's what it boils down to, right?
Right? We're just going to say the judge is in the bag. Yes. And then leave the rest to our minions. Doesn't matter. So now you got people going like, oh, the liberals said that we couldn't have a public inquiry and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, oh, look, now we can have one. But, we have to look at everything. That's the only way it could be done. Okay. This is a comment that I make often. When you can take a comment like that and just replace the variables with the things from other party and keep the constants, it's bullshit. And it's lazy.
Oh, yeah.
Says, oh, yeah, we have to get to the bottom of this public inquiry thing. We absolutely have to, say the conservatives. But only if you look at election interference from one country only, and as it applies to other countries, do it when there's only one of the two parties in power. Let's not look at all at how foreign election interference happens when conservatives are in power, because it might take a different path or a different route or involve different players. Let's get to the bottom of foreign interference. And the only way we can do it is looking only at the liberals and looking at it only when it happens when there's liberals and only from China. It's literally the same argument.
No, only from Beijing.
Only from Beijing. Yes, only from Beijing. It's literally the same argument.
Of course it is.
Literally the same argument, which means it's lazy.
Yeah.
It's lazy. So,
again, they don't want to govern. They just want power.
Yep.
That's all it is.
Yep. They want power and they want
and they'll do and say anything to get it.
Anything.
They will do and say anything to get it.
There is no one. There's nobody they won't slag. There's no reputation they will not defame. There is no lie they will not tell. And there is no group of people they will not turn another group of people against.
I'm just hoping Justice Hogue has very thick skin, because they're going to come after her with pitchforks.
Mm-hmm. Well,
they're
going to be limited. She's female and she's from Quebec, and the Bloc Québécois approves.
Yeah. So this could be interesting. It's as you had said in the past, Jesus Christ himself would be the only person who might be able to, be unassailable in this. Mark said the same thing, and I'm like, that's curious that Mark said that, because you had said that previously.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when they were pillaring David Johnston. So,
well, I mean, Jesus Christ loves those complicated and expensive social programs.
Yeah, well, he was a socialist, right? So
conservatives are not about that. Pierre keeps on telling us.
But they want to tell us how they're right-wing Christian evangelicals. Jesus would flip all their tables over were he here today, because they're not following a single one of his teachings. Not a single freaking one.
Nope. Not a single one. All right. We'll deal with. So that's there. Little bit of news for those who were paying attention from the sports world. Canada, unfortunately, had a terrible first quarter against Serbia in the semifinal today. They were trailing by a certain amount of points, I think about 8 or 9 points after 8 points after the first quarter, and were never able to catch up, even though they won the third and fourth quarters. They still lost 95-86. So they will be playing for bronze against either the USA or Germany. My guess is it'll probably be Germany, which is the team that they defeated with 10 seconds left on the clock at the DBB tournament right before to win it. So hopefully they can repeat the performance and can come back from the FIBA World Cup with a bronze medal. But regardless, Team Canada qualified for the Olympics, which was the most important goal other than winning. And we will see them there in Paris in 2024. So a successful tournament for Team Canada. Well done, boys. Well done. And today, if you are like me, definitely into tennis at noon, Gabriela Dabrowski and Aaron Routliffe. Aaron Routliffe, who's playing for New Zealand now, but is Canadian-born, will be playing in the semifinal of the women's doubles of the U.S. Open. That goes live at noon if you happen to be watching. So time to cheer on some Canadians, and hopefully we'll have a Canadian in the final. That would be really nice, considering particularly that it's been a hard U.S. Open for the Canadians specifically. And it's ever since the French Open which is like May, it's been a hard season for all the Canadians. I think every single one of the major players, the top 4 male and female players, have all been injured in some way or are coming back from recovering from injury. And yes, as Kitlinda Am, Canadian women won the bronze medal in the Norsika volleyball tournament. Pretty much every continental region in the world is having their continental championships right now. Africa, Asia, Europe. And so for North America, the Canadian women won the bronze. I believe Dominican Republic took the gold and the United States took the silver in that tournament. And the men are playing right now in their version of it, and so far they were doing well at the last check. Let's see, I'm going to look at that. They are they have won their pool, winning all matches against Dominican Republic and Mexico, and we've got a bye through the quarterfinals and the playoffs to the semifinals, where they'll play either Cuba or Mexico. So good luck to the boys over there, and hope that all is going well. All right. Let's see what else we have. I'm sorry, Kits, that I'm not able to interact with you too much in the chat because I only have one screen. I'm going back and forth to stories and stuff that I've curated, so I'm not able to follow things as we go.
I have something for you that just came across my feed from Colin DeMello.
Oh,
great story in the Globe and Mail. One of the Ford government's appointees to the Greenbelt Foundation has direct ties to a developer who received Greenbelt land removal.
Could you repeat that, please?
One of the Ford government's appointees to the Greenbelt Foundation has direct ties to a developer who received a Greenbelt.
There's a Greenbelt Foundation.
Yeah.
So not only just a Greenbelt task force that was mysteriously set up somewhere in the minister's office, but now there's a Greenbelt Foundation.
Yeah, this was set up.
I'm guessing they're not offering scholarships like the Trudeau Foundation.
No. The government appointed Susan McGovern in 2019 to the board of the Greenbelt Foundation, which describes itself on its website as the only, I don't know what the rest of it is, it's behind a paywall. Globe and Mail paywall, so.
Oh.
Let's see.
Hold on.
Oh, wait. No, I have it. It's an unpaywalled version.
Oh.
Huh.
Oh.
The former vice chair of a foundation set up to safeguard the Greenbelt, who was appointed to its board by Ontario Premier Doug Ford's government, has close family ties to one of the select group of developers whose land was opened up for housing construction in the environmentally protected region. The government appointed Susan McGovern in 2019 to the board of the Greenbelt Foundation, which describes itself on its website as the only organization solely dedicated to ensuring the Greenbelt remains permanent, protected, and prosperous. Her 3-year term ended on November 20th.
I'm looking at their page here, and among their board of directors, maybe there's other people that would have to look into their ties, but Mary Lou Tanner, chair, partner, principal planner of the Niagara Planning Group, David Dr. David McKeown, past chair of the Public Health Physician, Associate Chief Medical Officer of Health for the Province of Ontario. David Ovid, Secretary. David Ovid, Environmental Communications. The Treasurer is Joyce McLean. From McLean and Associates, the Executive Director, Mary McGrath from Green Learning Canada Foundation. Heather Tay is a Principal from Solve Consulting. Ray Duke from Four Farms. David Lindsay, the Chair of the Board of Directors of Infrastructure Ontario. Why do we need the Board of Directors of Infrastructure Ontario for the Greenbelt?
I don't know.
Daniel Sharman, Economic Development Policy Analyst for the Ontario Federation of Agriculture. Franco Nakarato, Executive Director, Meat and Poultry Ontario. Robert Masterby, Partnership Development, Native Plants in Claremont. Angela Blanas, Project Manager, Project Architect, Urban Planning and Design. And Charles Stevens, the Director of the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. And then there is an external advisory committee that consists of Robert Gibson, who's a professor at the School of Environment, Resources and Sustainability at the University of Waterloo. Steve Hollish, a hydrogeologist. Wow, I didn't even know those existed. He's a program manager at the Oak Ridges Moraine Groundwater Program. Mark Stab, Central Ontario Program Director, Nature Conservancy of Canada. Mark Russer, Vice President, Ontario Federation of Agriculture. And Sarah Winterton, Development Specialist, Carolinian Canada Coalition. I didn't even know that there was a Greenbelt Foundation.
Well, listen to this. You'll find this rather suspect. Ms. McGovern's brother and husband, so her brother and her husband, operate the Rice Group, one of the handful of developers whose land Mr. Ford's government removed from the Greenbelt last year, making the property no longer subject to the protected zone's restrictions on building. She is the sister of Michael Rice, the CEO of the Rice Group, who during Ms. McGovern's term as vice chair lobbied the Ontario government to allow development on the company's Greenbelt land. That lobbying was detailed in a report released last week by Ontario's Integrity Commissioner. Ms. McGovern's husband, John McGovern, is the company's senior vice president of policy and planning.
So greasy.
Can we have an inquiry?
My God. Wow. Okay.
It just, the levels of criminality.
The more we dig, the more we see all the links. Okay. So let's get to it. This is it's the story of the year. Monday, as Mr. Grizzly was making his way here to introduce my dearly departed computer to the person who did the microphone that did it in, says, you'll never guess what happened, because Mr. Grizzly had disconnected. It says, what? It says, Stephen Clark just resigned. It's like, oh, yeah. Oh. So basically, this scandal popped up, and for about 2 weeks, the premier and the minister, the then minister, said, no. We understand that the process was flawed. It's our process that we designed specifically to circumvent existing processes.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently we now know the process was flawed. Apparently they didn't know then the process was flawed. Apparently there was a need for an entire new process, an entire Greenbelt task force that I'm guessing was shaped by the not the minister, but the premier himself, because it was the premier's office that chose Ryan Amato, who allegedly is Stephen Clark's daughter's boyfriend, to make all those decisions without any supervision. And I'm pretty sure that if he only had 5 months beginning to end, and really 3 months, and that he managed to do all the actual zoning stuff in 3 weeks, I'm guessing he didn't have time to come in and actually find all the people to staff that unit in that office beforehand. So I'm guessing he walked into an office or task force that was already staffed and was just told to, Skippy air quotes, lead it. Because it takes a long time to set up an office.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm guessing he just walked into that. And who set that up?
Apparently.
Who chose all those people and brought them in to create that task force that was just outside the way that public service usually works, right? And how would Ryan O'Mato, if they had no direction and no supervision, know that, for example, when the people from the task force came and said, this bit of development here is just happening like somewhere in a plot of land that's surrounded only by forest and there's no services anywhere available, and it's just there. It says, yeah, go ahead. We don't need to regard that rule, or oh yeah, that rule's been changed, and now we can consider like extra 300 kilometers or space or distance from, or whatever it is, I guess. But he just made all the problems go away. The back of his hand. Problem? That's not a problem. You have that little harp thing? That little harp sound effect?
Yeah, just give me a sec here.
It's like, problem? That's not a problem. This is not zoned right. It's too far away from infrastructure and services. A little bit of Amato magic dust. The problem goes away.
See, there it is. It's good.
Yeah, all gone. There we go. Now it's zoned. Keep going on, right? I'm sure he figured that out himself. The boyfriend of the minister's daughter, allegedly, figured that himself. Okay. So
they're not very good at the criming thing, are they?
good.
They're not very smart.
They're enthusiastic about it, though.
Well,
they're very enthusiastic because they can't stop talking about it and they can't stop filming themselves and documenting themselves doing it.
We left the province to be run by an idiot.
We did.
An idiot, a puppet idiot, bagman, by the way.
So he does this for about 2 weeks, and then Ryan Mato says, you know what, deuces, I'm out of here. I see where this is going. And then for another 2 weeks, it's like, oh, yeah, the minister's going nowhere. And, yeah, it was a flawed process. We admit it was a flawed process. And, like this, but, everybody stayed. And, we're just going to move forward. Right?
Yeah,
because even though the Auditor General did specifically say that the ends don't justify the means, well, we have to build 1.5 million housing units and we're bringing in 500,000 people a year, and well, they're all coming here no matter what anybody's saying. I know they're all coming here. So we have to do it. We have to do it. The immigrants made me do it. The refugee seekers and asylum seekers made me do it.
They're setting them up to be the fall guy here.
We have to. We have to violate all the laws.
And refugees. Yeah.
Because we have to build the housing. Listen, we have two choices: build housing or not build housing. Okay, no. We don't have two choices. Those are not the two choices. If we have two choices, the two choices is you build housing according to the law, or you build housing not according to the law. You've chosen building housing not according to the law. So clearly you don't care about building housing, because if you really did, you would do it legally to make sure that the project could go smoothly with as little interference as possible, or court cases or scandals. And you'd actually get the houses built, but you were focused on other things. That's why you had to create all these new systems and processes and procedures. And had to try to keep all these links hidden. So we have Amato, and then we have Clark. And Clark apparently has lawyered up.
Oh, really?
Yes. Nothing. I think Amato has as well, but nothing says, right, I accept full responsibility. And this is the guy, right? Okay, the minister. I accept full responsibility. So does the premier, right? The buck stops here. No, the buck flows through here. Yes. Okay, let's be honest. The buck stops here. Yeah, the buck stops here. I count it, and then it keeps going, or something. But this guy here says that the buck stops with him. He accepts full responsibility a month after, and then 2 days later, pretty much resigns. But only resigns his cabinet position. No, buddy, you need to resign your frickin' seat.
Oh, yeah.
You need to resign your seat. You were complicit, willingly and willfully complicit, of course we have to say allegedly, in what is most likely the largest case of financial corruption by a government in Canadian history. No. You don't get the luxury and the privilege of merely resigning your seat, Rob Phillips style. Rob Phillips style. Rob Phillips pretended he was still in Canada while he was somewhere out south.
Green screened a fireplace.
Yes, because We weren't supposed to travel. Now, as underhanded and look at me, I'm entitled as it is, he didn't actually steal from us.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's a lying, duplicitous shit. And he
Yeah,
deserved
yeah.
to have to step down. But he remained in cabinet, and then about 6 months later got elevated to cabinet again, then decided he had enough of it, and he left. You allegedly participated in the biggest financial political crime in Canadian history. If only you had gone someplace
Well,
else and just green screened yourself there. You don't get
that old
to remain
chestnut.
in caucus and say, you know what, if I stay in the sin bin for 3 or 6 months, I'll get promoted back up to cabinet. No, you got to go. You got to go completely. Just like your buddy Doug. Like, you get to go straight to jail. You don't get to pass go, and you certainly don't get to put your hands on $200 more. You had enough, thank you. In fact, on all those $200 that you put your hands on every time you did pass go, you might have to give some of that back. Just
Well,
saying. Assuming that you touched any $200 along the way, or that they're waiting for you in an account later on, a couple of years after you leave politics, so it doesn't look too shady. Huh? Wink, wink. Come on, guys. So apparently he's still keeping his seat, hoping that he'll get promoted up back again, because he's been a good little puppy, man. He had that. He was one of the ministers in that government, like, that stayed there from the beginning. That's held the same portfolio
right.
the entire time. That doesn't happen in the Doug Ford government unless it's really, really, really important that you do not change portfolio. I'm just saying. So all of that happens, and then, of course, well, because he leaves, well, then, of course, the premier has to do a cabinet shuffle. So he had to come out into the press one more time. So he announces that Steve Clark is gone, and that he's going to replace him with all the people in the world with whom he could replace them. Paul frickin' Calandra.
Uh-huh.
Now, if you kids do not remember Paul frickin' Calandra, and frickin' is his official middle name, Paul frickin' Calandra was a Harper lackey. And during the time that he was a lackey for Harper and in cabinet, he was fielding some questions, and there was a big scandal that the government was involved in at the time, and he was asked a direct question, and I hope I'll be able to find it for you at some point. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, started talking about his parents' pizza place.
Why?
I'm guessing because he just didn't want to answer the question. He has had a history of doing that. Actually, there is an actual Ottawa Citizen article that came out that I found a while ago, where that listed 4 occasions where he made such sort of like non sequitur answers. And of course, I can't find it. Now, often his things follow tearful apologies, or come with tearful apologies. This is from 2014. Conservative MP Paul Calandra has made a tearful apology to the House of Commons for his non-answers to opposition questions this week. Calandra, Prime Minister Stephen Harper's parliamentary secretary, rose on a point of order to tell House he was sorry for his conduct. His voice cracked as he appeared to fight back tears during the apology. Calandra says he allowed his passion and anger to get in the way of properly responding to a question earlier this week from NDP leader Tom Mulcair. It wasn't passion and anger, buddy. It was you didn't want to answer the question because the question was inconvenient. So he can turn on the waterworks whenever he wants to. He is definitely a pit bull attack person. And as well, it's not like he doesn't have some stuff in his past. From January 9th, 2014, there was an article in the Ottawa Citizen that says, Paul Calandra court documents point to family dispute over money assets. Before he was elected in 2008, the Prime Minister's parliamentary secretary, Paul Calandra, was embroiled in an ugly family dispute in which he was accused of taking money from his dying mother and suggesting he should kill his sister.
Wow.
Yeah. Calandra, the government's point man on the Senate expense scandal, has become notorious for responding to opposition questions in the House of Commons with heartwarming stories about his parents and children. But the acrimonious 2005 legal dispute suggests a far less convivial family dynamic. The case was eventually settled in 2008, shortly before Calandra was first elected as the MP. Oh, much like the Conservatives finally settled their in-and-out case before the third election that they wanted to get their full majority and did, of course. Yes. The allegations made against him in the lawsuit launched by sisters Conchetta Calandra and Milva Gehring were never proven in court. Asked for comment, Calandra emailed a statement he attributed to himself, his brother, and Conchetta, saying the dispute was, quote, many years ago and that the family had resolved their differences. Quote, we love and support each other and have no further comment on this very personal family matter. In an affidavit filed in October 2005, Conchetta Calandra described how her mother, Franca, allegedly confronted Paul about approximately $8,000 that had been charged to Franca's Visa card and her TD bank account. Shades of George Santos.
Oh, my God.
Paul went ballistic, Conchetta claimed in the affidavit. He was completely out of control. He started calling me names, suggested that he should kill me, and punched the pantry door. He said Mom didn't need to know about it, and that when the money ran out, that he would use the money in her mutual funds, the affidavit says of the January 25th, 2005 conversation. My mom looked scared. She was shaking, yelling at him to calm down. I was terrified. Then Paul started talking nonsense. He said he didn't want any part of the family. He said he didn't want to see anybody again. He said they were coming to repossess his car in the morning. Sounds like Paul was high on drugs.
Maybe.
Or had major gambling debts.
Maybe. We don't know.
Well, I mean, this is behavior that I often hear from people that have had a child who is drug addicted or whatnot. They come in like, I need this, I need that. We didn't have anything about
it. Certainly does paint that picture, right? And if that's the case, I hope he's gotten the help he needs. He clearly needs help here.
Yep.
Therapy, at least.
Yep. Conchetta said she had become concerned about her mother's finances in 2004 when she found a TD Visa statement with a charge for internet services, even though her mother had never used a computer. She also found bank charges for Home Depot, A&P Groceries, and Sunoco at a time her mother was in Scarborough General Hospital, Conchetta said in her affidavit. Conchetta said he called her brother to demand to reimburse the costs. I told him he was committing fraud and could be charged. In a statement of defense, Calandra said his mother authorized him to incur the changes as, quote, compensation for the sacrifice the defendant was making by foregoing employment to care for his sick mother. Yeah, seems he was caring for her.
This just gets weirder by the moment.
Calandra claimed that he had stayed at home full-time as a caregiver for Franca between October 2003, the month of the Ontario PC Party was voted out of office, and January 2005. After the confrontation, Franca rescinded Calandra's power of attorney and gave it to Conchetta instead, which is something people typically do when they gave you permission to.
Well...
And then, you know what? If she gave him permission to, like, yeah, you know what, babe? Hey, baby, you need to go buy a couple of bread and a little bit of milk and a can of soup for yourself. Yeah, use the credit card. That's fine. Not Home Depot. And so, come on, man. But Calandra claimed in his defense that when Franca switched the power of attorney and updated her will, she didn't have the requisite mental capacity because of pain management narcotics she was taking for cancer. Conchetta said she had found that her mother's widow's benefit had been garnished to pay down more than the $10,000 in unpaid taxes. She said she was shocked because she believed $25,000 taken from her mother's account had been used to pay the Canada Revenue Agency. In fact, she alleged in court documents Calandra wrote the check to himself. Calandra said in a statement of defense that he never claimed the $25,000 was intended to pay taxes. Rather, he said the money was given to the defendant by his mother freely without pretext and of her own volition. $25,000. as well as access to her credit card. Because you're such a good boy and taking care of your mama. Central to the legal dispute was Calandra's listing as a co-resident with his mother on a farm property in Stouffville. Franca Calandra died in August 2005, 3 months after the property was transferred to list both her and Paul as joint tenants. The sisters allege that Calandra wrongly caused the property to be transferred, then mortgaged the property for $240,000, even though he no longer had power of attorney. That's a lot of money here. $25,000, $240,000. You sure there wasn't a gambling debt of some kind there?
Something ain't right.
Who needs $240,000?
I mean, something's very off.
Who needs to mortgage a property for $240,000 all of a sudden after they've already taken $25,000 and charged of groceries and stuff to the mom's credit card?
It's all very suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if he has a problem, either gambling or alcohol or drug
Or had.
addiction or had, I hope he's gotten the help he needed for it.
Yep. In response,
That's sincere. I hate to see people suffer. Even people I think are assholes who need to get smacked. I still don't want to see them suffer.
but it's
Well,
like
maybe a little
the
bit.
number of times I make the claim that conservatives are the type of people that will like stand up there with a bit. No, mommy, I'll take care of you. Just sign this.
Yeah.
This guy is literally the stereotype, if these allegations are true. In response, Calandra claimed that the bank required his name on the title for the mortgage, which was used to pay off a mortgage on her previous home. His mother, he claimed, knew about the transaction and approved of it. Yes, his mother apparently knew about all these things when he was telling it to her, but when the daughter had her, or when she decided that she was changing her power of attorney, then she was mentally incapacitated. A document filed on September 8th, 2008, the first full day of the federal election campaign, said the parties had settled the case. This past summer, Calandra 43. Now here's a little bit of history, if not repeating rhyming. This past summer, now remember that's in 2008 when this article was written.
Right.
Calandra 43 was appointed parliamentary secretary to Prime Minister Stephen Harper, replacing embattled MP Dean Del Maestro, who later left the
went to jail, didn't
Conservatives
he?
caucus after he was charged with 4 counts of Elections Act offenses and eventually went to jail. Paul Calandra is now appointed Minister of Housing by Premier Doug Ford, replacing embattled MPP Steve Clark, who hasn't left the Conservative caucus, but left the Conservative cabinet after he was suspected of crimes, offenses against the Members Act. I was just, oh my God. It's literally, no wonder he called on Calandra. He's the guy you call.
So it seems, yeah.
Oh my God. Calandra sought the Conservative nomination in Oak Ridge's Markham in 2004, but lost out to a local businessman. A news report on the nomination described him as a commercial industrial real estate landlord. Huh. How convenient. A few weeks into the 2008 federal election, Calandra sold the farm property for $950,000 to a local landscape contractor. Calandra lists no assets in the conflict of interest disclosure he filed with the Federal Ethics Commission, and only one liability, a mortgage he guaranteed for his wife on their matrimonial home. Lady, if you are still married to him, man, check your docs.
This is greasy.
Holy. Wow. Yeah, Kit Saucy Ford certainly knows how to pick them.
Come on. Talk about a white man failing up. I mean, come on.
Oh my
That's
God.
just.
And
this is the exasperated face again.
And day one, CTV News Toronto, Ontario Housing Minister dodges Greenbelt questions.
Oh,
Of course, because that's what he does best. Ontario's new housing minister, Paul Calandra, held his second news conference in as many days Thursday morning while he dodged questions about Greenbelt development while reiterating his commitment to meeting provincial building targets. The task force report did not at the time contemplate the enormous amount of growth that the province was going to see, not only from outside. Yeah, that's what Doug says all the time as well. It's like this, all you're going to repeat is what Doug Ford has already been saying. We're seeing tremendous growth in the province of Ontario. This is a very exciting and encouraging time for people of this province. We need those 1.5 million homes. Yes, we do. So why are you doing it illegally to make sure that we don't get them? If we need them, you do it legally. That way, you make sure it happens. So lots of stuff here, just to make that suggestion that we don't care is absolutely completely false. But we are looking at is ensuring that we have land available in areas where we have made significant contributions to infrastructure. Blah 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 blah. It just. Oh my God, this guy. So anyway, he is, but there we go. Some of the more bizarre responses from Conservative MP Paul Callander. There's 4 of them here. In response to an NDP question about Canada's current mission in Iraq. Mr. Speaker, what does the Leader of the Opposition not understand? Our friends in Israel are on the front lines combating terrorism. The question was about Canada's current mission in Iraq. Our friends in Israel on the front lines combating terrorism? Okay. In response to an NDP question about Nigel Wright. I do like flowers, and of course with lemons, I like to make lemonade. My 2 daughters this summer actually had a lemonade stand where they sold lemonade for 5 cents on the street. They did it very well. I'm very proud of them. So now we know where Heather Stephenson got the strategy.
Well, clearly.
In response to another question about the Senate expenses scandal, I have 2 daughters, a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, 2 beautiful girls, Natalie and Olivia, and each week I give them an allowance. Part of that allowance might be for cleaning their rooms. Both Natalie and Olivia know that sometimes their mothers might clean their rooms. They both know that they should not ask for allowance because they did not actually do the work. If my 5-year-old and 7-year-old can figure this out, how is it that these senators cannot figure it out? And how is it that the opposition supports that type of activity from our senators? Huh? And number 1, you're not supposed to give children an allowance for cleaning up their rooms. They clean up their rooms because they're members of the household, and as members of the household, they participate. You don't give an allowance, someone an allowance for contributing to helping towards the house, because then every time you ask them to do the dishes, they say, what are you going to give me for it? You do that because you live here. You're given an allowance because you're teaching kids how to manage money.
Yeah.
That's just silly. In response to a question about a former PMO staffer who left in the midst of a Senate expenses scandal, my father owned a pizza store. He worked 16 to 18 hours a day. I can tell the House what my father would not have done if he saw somebody stealing from his cash register. He would not have said, you are suspended. Make sure you come back every 2 weeks and collect a paycheck. What he would have said is, you're fired, leave. And he would have called the police. And then the Conservatives fired nobody. In that Senate expenses scandal. In fact, Leo Housakis, who was dinged in that Senate expenses scandal to the tune of $6,000, is still the Conservatives' leader in the Senate today. Yeah, Paul. You were really firm with them, like your dad would be. He must be doing tumbling passes. Anyway, so that was just one of the new cabinet reshuffling that dumbass Dougie Donuts had to do. A person named Prabmeet Sakaria is now the Minister of Transportation. Carolyn Mulroney, who was previously the Minister of Transportation, is now the President of the Treasury Board. And of course, while he was referring to her, he mentioned that whole Casey thing. Oh, no, nobody cares about that type of honorific. It doesn't mean, well, then why did you make a point of giving them, to handing them out to everyone then, if it doesn't really matter? Stan Cho becomes the Minister of Long-Term Care. And I don't know if it is, but if anybody in the kids in the chat could tell me, is Stan Cho related in any way to once controversial Toronto municipal council member Raymond Cho?
I don't know.
I don't know, but he didn't seem to be a very nice man. But because I'm just wondering if he is, because Raymond Cho was once the Minister of Long-Term Care under Doug Ford as well. So that's why I'm just wondering, are they brothers? They related? They are, because I mean, it would be getting Paul Calandra to come in, given his past, and given he considers himself, well, at least back in 2005, a real estate developer on this file, is one set of incredible coincidences. But if the Minister of Long-Term Care, the former one, is anyway, I, I'm I'm just saying, if the new Minister of Seniors happens to be related to a previous Minister of Seniors in this thing, like he's not pitching his net really wide to find his people.
Of course not. He just does what somebody tells him to do.
But I'm sure Chobe was probably a very common name. Might be an equivalent to Smith in that language, so I will not assume, but it's just oddly coincidental. Rob Flack, there's a name, becomes the Associate Minister of Housing. I'm sorry, Flack? I know there are accidental and unfortunate names in certain circumstances, but come on,
this is
man.
one of those.
Could you have a more unfortunate name than Flack at this particular time? Todd McCarthy becomes Associate Minister of Transportation, reporting to the Minister of Transportation, and Nina Tangri becomes Associate Minister of Small Business, reporting to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation, and Trade. Calandra will maintain his title of Government House Leader, the Premier's office said, and Mulroney will still be the Minister of Francophone Affairs for whatever shit good that does to Francophones in Ontario. Seriously. She could just not be there. It wouldn't be worse. Seriously. I think it probably would be better had he just left the position completely unstaffed for his entire term. Because what he did to Amanda Simard at the beginning also was not cool. All other ministers are keeping their portfolios. So, and then he had another press conference, which you talked about, Mr. Grizzly, which was probably even more disastrous than the one that happened about a week and a half ago that you couldn't get through.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I listened to the full thing again, and this time, my jaw was on the floor the entire time that I forgot to take notes and timestamps.
Yeah, because it was just so unbelievably absurd.
It was that bad. And literally has not changed a thing.
No, they just stay on the same message.
Still on the same messages. I've got to build these houses. There was
We're building houses.
There was so much self-back-patting, self-hero. Doug Ford cast himself in total hero worship.
This is why he loves Trump so much. They're one and the same.
But that's the thing, right? I'm sorry, like, how about your nice little house where you live, Colin? Huh? That's a nice little house you have. It would be a shame if something happened to it.
Basically is what he did.
Basically what he did. And then Colin said, that was a very nasty question, was another one, right? It's like, I'm surprised he didn't call someone a nasty woman somewhere along the way. Right? I mean, there's the rambling answers, the non sequiturs, the bumbling personality, the slap you on the back. Hi, come to my rally. I'll cover your legal fees. Come to Ward Fest. I'll give you a burger and a beer and a slap on the back, and you can just drop your donation in that box there.
Just drop your donation.
Yeah, like this. Contribute to my legal defense fund. I wouldn't be surprised if some people in the Ford milieu start doing those those GoFundMes as well. Because I mean, we don't have super PACs here, but yeah, contribute. I mean, literally, Premier Porky Pig is the Republican governor of the state of Ontario, and he is adopting all the same strategies as 45 on this file.
Completely. And
it's never been more obvious.
He doesn't care. And I really do hope that there is an RCMP investigation into this, and I really do hope he gets charged and convicted of the criming he's been criming.
Yep. Charged, arrested, tried, convicted, sentenced. Yeah. That's the path forward. 5 verbs.
It's so beyond ridiculous.
5 verbs. Need Alice.
It's so beyond ridiculous.
Remember those minute rice commercials? Alice, just 5 minutes. Just 5 words. Arrested, charged, tried, convicted, sentenced. That's what we want.
That's it right there.
That's what we want. And all the fuckers. All of them.
I got another thing that just came across my feed. Another.
Are we changing subject?
Mildly.
Can we hold it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm running out of gas. So my antihistamine's kicking in.
Okay. Ooh, darn, because I was just getting started. Okay. Then shit got really weird.
Yeah.
So we heard that he was stepping aside, and then I'm going to try and share screen here with you, and hopefully it will work in this.
It'll work.
But
it'll work.
all of a sudden, we got introduced to a company that we had never heard of before called Municipal Solutions.
Never heard of them.
There we go. Municipal Solutions is a multifaceted firm specializing in development services and has also launched some new developments on their own in the industrial, commercial, and residential sectors. Municipal Solutions is also Canada's leading business development firm for the building trades. The most important relationship we build is with our clients, and they have a whole bunch of stuff. But if you look at their on the top of the bar, you see about us, the team, services, development services, and what's this here?
I can't read that.
Cannabis consulting.
Oh my gosh.
Well, wait a minute. So then we get this. The team. All right. Now.
Oh, John Mutton.
Yeah, John Mutton. Now, but first,
Mr. X.
we started with this. The first images I saw was this anacondic.
Yeah,
and you'll notice that someone is missing, that the space is blank. Well, Shades of Taylor Smith, that wasn't always I've got a blank space, baby, and I'll write your name. Phoenix Kiss, who was on the website when all this, but is now no longer on the website for Municipal Solutions. And now, like, kids, come on. Direct from Central Casting. Okay, here's a hint for you. Communications.
The cigar is still in its wrapper.
Yes. If you want to present yourself as a company that is completely and totally above board, how about not do the direct from Central Casting baller picture with a big fat ring, flashy suit, huge cigar. Okay, and number 2, if you've got little short stubby sausage fingers, big chunky ring, and huge cohiba with the wrapper still on.
I think it's a Partega.
No. Okay. If you've got big, fat, chunky hands and you want to make your hands look smaller, you don't bring in a cohiba that's bigger than your fingers. You take a tip from the drag queens and you drink out of really huge glasses. That's the only way to make your hands look smaller.
It's not a cohiba.
It's like when you see
a cigar. It's not a cohiba.
When you see a teacup that's as big as your head with 2 handles, it's like, ooh, a drag queen sized teacup. All right. This is not the way to say we are a serious organization. So, and as Dean pointed out, when you make the effort to look all splashy and then you forget to shave the ear fuzz patch.
Oh God.
Right there.
Oh my. Like, bro.
Okay. So the wrapper's still on like this. And how much you want to bet he walked into Moore's, got fitted, and then left it on the rack?
Probably.
Okay. So here we go. We have this Phoenix Kiss guy, anaconda, like, come on. Come on.
Phoenix Kiss, is that his real name?
I would be surprised.
Because I'm thinking it's more like that's his wannabe
Stage
rapper name or something.
Well, just like anacondic, right?
Yeah.
Anaconda.
Is that her name?
Really? Anna leads the Municipal Solutions Cannabis and Psilocybin Division. Why does Municipal Solutions need a cannabis and psilocybin division?
So weed and shrooms.
Weed and shrooms. Yes, with a special emphasis on bringing the European products to North America and growing new strains and spores. Anna has spent many years in Croatia working in the fitness industry. Now in Canada, she works with some of the most advanced strains and spores in both cannabis and psilocybin, having a relationship with the PhDs at the World's Mushroom Museum in Zagreb. Anna has access to the most advanced and experienced knowledge hubs in the world. All right? Yeah. And then when you go, so it was just Anna and Phoenix that were shown, but then when you went to the site and then you looked up, then you get
Mr.
this
X,
guy.
John Mutton. Yeah.
Okay. I never thought that Michael Cooper would ever be jealous of a man.
It's not nice to pick on him for his looks. He can't help that.
He can't help that, but come on, man. Where do they find these people? Michael Cooper, Arthur, whatever his name, their DJ Homo Milk, and Stan Oosterhoff. These really, 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 really thin, super pale people who they come from horror movies.
Martin Luchowski looks a little like an older Vladislav Tretiak.
A little bit. And then John Mutton Chops.
Yeah.
Again, direct from Central Casting.
Oh, did you not see his pose down?
His pose?
Did you not see that?
He's got a pose down.
Oh.
Okay. I did not see the pose.
I'll find it.
All right. So you have these two people. You have this basically cast of cartoon characters here. And then we find out that this Mr. Mutton guy actually turns out to be super, super, super well known. There are pictures of him with anyone and everyone. We have, let's see if I can share that here and whether or not it shows up. Mr. Grizzly. Okay.
Just a second, sir. There we go.
So we have him here with Doug Ford. And then we have him here with Pierre Poilievre. And it's from him, John Mutton. Pierre Poilievre will ensure that housing and development will happen and put in policies to deal with the bureaucratic municipal gatekeepers. It seems Mutton himself is the gatekeeper. The policies need to be put in to deal with him. Then, of course, Phoenix Kiss, of course, a real person who was part of a firm that appears to have lobbied Doug Ford's government to take lands, according to Asif Hussain.
That's John Mutton.
Yeah. And then John Mutton again with Anna Kondik. And he writes, the boss and my wife. So Anna Kondik is John Mutton's boss. And then again, no better way to prove that everything is totally above board and not at all modeled off the mob, like calling the guy running it the boss.
Well,
now, a lot of people are talking about Anna and making some very nasty comments. Like, John Mutton's married to a man, whatnot. Please hide your transphobia.
Yeah, that's not... Come on.
She's a tall woman. She's a big, solid woman. She's clearly into the fitness and whatnot like this. Odds are most likely steroids.
I would think she's definitely juiced at one point or another.
Yeah.
Certainly looks like somebody who's been on the jack.
And so is he.
Yeah.
So is he. And you got, there are things going on. There's, you might see it's a meme going on. I got it here. It's sort of based on the Law and Order thing. I don't know if we can show it because it has the Law and Order music over it, which I know could be copyrighted.
Yeah, we'll get tagged for that.
We'll get tagged for that. But let's see.
Yeah, if you kill the volume.
Yeah, exactly. I can do that. So let's do.
You'll need to blow it up and go full screen. There you go. Okay. Oh, Wait, let me know when you're ready, sir. When you're ready, I'll happily put that on the screen. Is it working?
Okay, we'll take the volume off. Sorry, I can only see one screen at a time. Are we set up, Mr. Grizzly?
Yeah, we're good to go. Just hit play.
Oh, of course, now I can't hear you because I turned the volume down. Okay, so I'm just going to... working with one computer is not easy. Hold on. Let me see if I can divide. Okay, let's try it this way. There, right now I can see you. Yep. But yeah, see, I'm trying to split screen, but every time I make the other one large...
I understand.
It does not allow me. Okay,
just go ahead and hit play.
And I'll talk. And now it will not play. Of course.
Well, you got to press the play button.
Why are you making my life?
There we go.
Now it's playing.
No,
All right.
it's working. It was working.
So we got Douglas Robert Ford as the boss. Now you have to
blow it up.
John Mutton as Mr. X. Okay. Now in the John Mutton, it's too bad. He's not wearing a shirt, so you see him all ripped and whatnot, and you can see evidence of potential steroids. But the book that he's handing has something to do with municipal dezoning.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So he's posing with it, right? And then, sorry, if you keep going, Mr. Grizzly.
Well, you got to go full screen. We can't see it.
I'm sorry. I turned
the image
down so we don't have the music, so I can't hear you at the moment. So if you just keep doing the share screen, that would be great.
Go full screen. I have to type him a message.
Okay, but if I go full screen, I can't see you.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, then just let me know that it's up. All right. So we got him. Phoenix as himself. Steve Clark as the Patsy. MZOs as the Beavers. Tony Clement as the Great Hand. Peter Polyev as the Federal Fixer. Anna Condic as the host of the Gym Collection. And Ryan Amato as the Sacrifice.
Law and Order entering the green belt.
Whoever did that, very, very, very inspired. Very inspired.
Very good. Very good. Well done.
So
good on them.
We have this cast of characters, and then we're finding out a whole bunch of other things, like this John Mutton guy. And again, sorry, but Mutton?
Mm-hmm.
Old gamey sheep?
Yeah.
Again, the names. It seems that, he was broke a while ago, and now all of a sudden has a $200,000 Maserati.
Well, so somebody got up in arms the other day when they hired him as a consultant and paid him $6,000 a month. And I said, it's only $72,000 a year. That's still below the middle income cutoff in Ottawa, and he lives in Toronto. So I don't think you should make hay about that. $72,000 a year for a consultant is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheap.
Yeah. There we go.
The $1 million bonus he got, though, is greasy.
Well, that's the other thing, right? So if you put up the screen here again there, Mr. Grizzly. Is it up? Because I can't see you.
It's up.
Okay, so we have this tweet. Meet with Doug Ford October 8th, 2022. Buy new Maserati October 10th, 2022. And we know they have a $1 million commission from the Greenbelt landing getting resolved. This is comical. So this here is a picture of, again, John Mutton with his wife, with Doug Ford. I believe that October 8th, 2022. So I believe that was about a week or so before stuff was announced.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then, as we were mentioning about Anna, she's big. Like those legs.
Oh, she's definitely fit.
But that's what I'm saying. So that's what people are making these transphobic comments.
I don't care for that.
I don't care for it whatsoever. Like this. Now, is she juiced? Potentially.
Probably. So what?
But again,
she's an adult. She can make that choice.
Yes,
if she
exactly.
wants to.
Exactly. We're all allowed to make. But it leads to, again, when you're talking about connecting worlds, you got I don't know what it. I know that there's a connection between the wellness community and vaccine denialism, and I guess, but I'm just wondering, like, all of these scandals seem to have somebody that's involved with either cannabis or mushrooms, and a lot of these people in these movements seem to be particularly jacked for some reason.
Well,
there seems to be a look at a culture that is emerging, and it seems to involve lots of gym, tan, and laundry. I'm just saying.
Do we have the Jersey Shore consulting with the government of Ontario now?
I'm just saying. And it's not like I don't know about tan. Lord knows I do a lot of laundry. The gym?
We're sticking with land and real estate here. I gotta give you this one. This is from Press Progress from September 5th, so just a couple of days ago. Executives at big real estate companies profiting off and even driving up high real estate prices across Canada, and here's the catch, are listed as donors to the Federal Conservative Party, Election Canada record shows. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has been railing against high real estate prices and presenting himself as the solution to Canada's housing affordability crisis. Yet, Poilievre's party also appears to have received financial support from top executives at some of Canada's biggest real estate investment trusts. And Canada's housing market this is from Max Fawcett. Canada's housing market is a complex stew of political and economic ingredients that includes federal indifference, provincial mismanagement, and local NIMBYism, and global economic factors that include a pandemic. They have all conspired to drive up interest rates faster than at any point in decades and put a long simmering crisis into a rolling boil. But for the Conservative Party of Canada leader Pierre Poilievre, it all comes down to just one factor: Justin Trudeau's government.
Yep.
His assertion that Canada has the fewest houses per square kilometer of any country on Earth, and with all that land, we should be able to easily build affordable homes for anyone who wants to have one. This assumes an acre of land in the Lower Mainland or Greater Toronto area is the same as one in Alert, Nunavut, or Churchill, Manitoba, which is either deliberately deceptive or manifestly idiotic. After all, there are many reasons why people in Canada tend to congregate as close to the United States border as possible, including economic opportunity and personal comfort. But the inventory of desirable land available for housing that people will want to buy or rent in large numbers is actually a tiny fraction of our overall land mass, far smaller than what the United States has to work with. That helps explain in part why their housing market is so comparatively sane and why a house in Buffalo, New York might be cheaper than one in Niagara Falls.
Mm-hmm.
So why were we building so many homes in the 70s and so few in the 90s? Let's give Poilievre the floor for a moment. Why is it that he asks in his video what is standing in the way? The answer, in a word, is government. He is referring to government standing in the way of new construction, but the truth is, by abandoning the cooperative and social housing programs that led to the 1970s building boom, governments, both liberal and conservative, to be clear, have been standing in the way of additional housing supply for a long time. This is the key weakness in Poilievre's otherwise winning housing message, and it's one the Liberals must exploit if they want a chance of winning a fourth consecutive election. He's right to pressure municipal governments and require them to increase building permits or lose some portion of their federal funding. He's right that any new transit investment should be paired with pre-zoning and permitting of higher density apartments around the stations. And he's right to say more housing is part of the solution to Canada's increasing treacherous housing market. But building the right kind of housing in the right kinds of places is even more important. Poilievre's vision clearly makes more space for the kinds of communities he grew up in, ones that expand and extend the limits of our cities and lock their residents into the sort of car-dependent living that raises costs for both homeowners and taxpayers. Rather than government getting out of the way, as Poilievre suggests, it needs to find ways to get back in the game. This is where the Liberals and New Democrats have to come in. We need an alternative to Poilievre's dumbed-down approach that trades in half-truths and gerrymandered data. We need an opportunistic vision of the future in which Canadians aren't forced to choose between urban sprawl and economic survival. And we need solutions that target the real stress points in our housing ecosystem rather than cutting a blank check to politically collected developers. The article goes on to say a lot more, but I wanted to get that in there because it almost goes completely hand in hand with what's happening with the whole Greenbelt land grab.
Yeah.
And I have one idiotic tweet. I have to show you this.
All right.
You're not going to. This is the biggest load of bullshit he's put forth yet. I'm just going to put this on the screen. This is just, oh my God, the comparison is not even sane. Here we go. Pierre Poilievre. Why are groceries so much cheaper in the States than in Canada? 2 words, Justin Trudeau. Axe the tax, bring home affordable food. What? This Canadian woman says she saves $80 per trip by buying groceries in the U.S. Well, guess what? She's about to get stopped at the border every time now because her face is out there thanks to the National Post and Skippy. Why are you comparing a country that you do not, nor will you ever govern in, to ours? It's like when he did the Niagara Falls real estate thing. It's like, yeah, nobody wants to live in Niagara Falls, New York.
Right.
It's on the Love Canal.
Right.
It's
Right.
You can't give houses away there.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that why are groceries so much cheaper in Canada? Well, they pay less taxes to begin with. Number one.
They don't have to ship it as far.
Number two, they don't have an oligopoly that controls the 4 grocery chains, basically.
Mm.
I mean, there's basically 4 grocers in this country. That's not the case in the United States. Even though there are big companies that control a lot of grocery stores, that's not just them. And because their taxes are lower, they don't have health care. But you know what'll happen if Skippy ever gets elected. Say goodbye to EI, say goodbye to CPP, and say goodbye to public health care.
Yep.
Oh, and you'll be working till 67.
Yep.
By the way.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I remember when Harper first changed the retirement age from 65 to 67, a lot of people went, oh, that's not so bad. And I go, tell me how you feel about that when you're about to turn 65. Tell me how you feel that now you've got to work 2 more years when your whole life you've been thinking about 65 comes along, I'll get my pension, I'll retire, I'll put my feet back and relax and spend my days doing the things I want to do instead of doing the things I have to do to keep a roof over my head. No, you got to do that for 2 more years.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I hear you loud and clear, man. I hear you absolutely loud and clear. It's just exhausting.
Well, he also has to, they're talking about why is it so much cheaper to buy groceries in the States? Their minimum wage is $7 an hour.
Yeah. That also has something to do with it, eh? You can't just transpose one for one.
It's not apples to apples. It isn't.
Because and remember also that's that price before your healthcare costs and the gun crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So
for-profit prisons too.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about that.
Now, this thing with Doug Ford gets even weirder, as you mentioned, because according to the Trillium, Ontario's Integrity Commissioner left something out of the bombshell report on Housing Minister Steve Clark this week: the identity of an unregistered lobbyist who allegedly helped get a piece of land in Clarington out of the Greenbelt. Commissioner J. David Wake referred to the lobbyist as Mr. X in his report, not to raise a new level of intrigue, because again, nothing says kosherly dealing with someone called Mr. X. This is all above board, because he's prohibited by law from stating whether an investigation is being conducted or not into a lobbyist. Wake's report alleges that Mr. X had a contract that would see him paid $1 million if the property on Nash Road in Clarington was successfully removed from the Greenbelt and rezoned. Such lobbying success fees are illegal in Ontario. It's lobbyists' own responsibility to ensure they comply with the Lobbyist Registration Act, the sectorial law, and I'm guessing that he probably wasn't registered, and neither was Municipal Solutions. Gotta go out on a limb here.
That's the rumor I've heard.
The report contains some other tidbits about Mr. X. He is said to have boasted about having a, quote, friendly contact in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and allegedly told his client he was entertaining two key figures in the report: Ryan Amato, Clark's chief of staff who oversaw the Greenbelt project, and deputy chief of staff Kirsten Jensen. Oh, there's a new name. In mid-September, as the project to remove land from the Greenbelt was underway, the report says he wrote to his client, quote, I have a lunch meeting next week with Kirsten, and the chief of staff, Ryan D'Amato, is coming as well. Ours is the only file I am discussing. I also have them coming to golf at Goodwood in 2 weeks with me and to a Raptors game. Wine me, dine me, 69 me. Amato told the commissioner he could have gotten information about the Nash Road property from Mr. X, but denied going to the lunch, golfing, and the Raptors game. Jensen said she only attended the lunch on September 27th and added accepted something from Mr. X that she passed on to Amato. Rule number 1, never accept packages to pass on to someone else unless you know specifically what's in them first.
Yeah.
Okay. The Nash Road property details were included in the first package Amato gave to the ministry officials on or around October 3rd, Wake wrote. Mr. X was not interviewed during the Integrity Commissioner's inquiry. How convenient. And has not had a chance to respond to any of the evidence gathered and offer his evidence as to what occurred. I'm sure he's quite fine with that. Wake withheld details about this lobbyist's identity for a few reasons, including because Mr. X wasn't his investigation subject and because evidence that he could provide wasn't absolutely necessary for it. On Friday, the Trillium spoke to numerous sources about Mr. X and who he could be. Just one name came up from both those close to the events described in Wake's report and those who relied on the evidence of the Integrity Commissioner provided: John Mutton, Clarington's former mayor. And I'm sure he has an excellent record as mayor. If there's anybody from Clarington you'd like to tell us how John Mutton was as a mayor, please let us know. Mutton did not answer a call made to him noon on Friday, nor did he return a voicemail. Just before then, Mutton changed his Instagram account, which has almost 40,000 followers, to being private. Nothing says I have nothing to hide. However, Mutton told the Toronto Star that he worked for Peter Tannenbaum, oh, there's a new name, owner of the company holding the land on Nash Road that was removed from the Greenbelt, but not as a lobbyist. I'm not a lobbyist. I have a development services company where we provide planning, engineering, and everything, he told the Star, including mushrooms. I've never been contracted to do any type of lobbying to get any lands out the Greenbelt. The including mushrooms was my editorial addition, by the way, kids. Wasn't actually in the quote. Mutton also told the Star that he did not know the identity of the Mr. X described in the Integrity Commissioner's report. Aw, isn't that cute? He spends all this time bragging and taking pictures of everything, but then when he's asked directly, hey, is this that you? I have no idea who this guy is. Oh my God. Just like Walt Nada and De Oliveira had no idea where the boxes they got caught on security camera footage moving went, or how they got on the plane so that they could be flown down to Bedminster with the president so he could show them to people who were writing an autobiography. Nobody knows how these things happened.
Nobody knows.
He doesn't. He basically said, I do not recognize myself. Oh my God. Shit. Oh my God. Ford and Clark's offices also hadn't responded to emails from the Trillium. I guess not. Mutton was identified as being Mr. X by one conservative source close to the events last fall, plus another who's well connected to the party. Among the few clues Wake gives about Mr. X's identity are the fact that he's a former municipal politician and that he wasn't among the 61 witnesses who were interviewed in the Clark investigation. There's very few people who could fit that description. A fourth conservative source deduced the same. There's only one guy who does GR, government relations, in Clarington, who's a former municipal official, they said. A fifth conservative source recalled that Mutton had worked to help Tannenbaum arrange meetings with MPPs in the Durham region during the Ford government's first mandate. And there is more. It's an article on the Crier Media Network called Doug Ford, Mr. X, a dude named Phoenix Kiss, and a 2000K Maserati. The latest in Ontario's Greenbelt scandal is bananas. And Mr. Grizzly, if we can do a picture here, in this article, we do have an image of Mr. Mutton jacked up and clearly in a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah, I showed it earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So
I showed the exact same photo.
okay. So then, yeah. So we have a company, maybe unregistered lobbying, connection to the psilocybin and cannabis worlds, and as well, according to Press Progress, titled Ontario PC candidate David Piccini endorsed by Instagram influencer with ties to Hell's Angels and Satan's Choice. Piccini posted photos with Satan's Choice leader's son and controversial local politician John Mutton at pre-campaign event. Okay.
Yeah, I talked about that the other day.
Satan's Choice, Hell's Angels. And we got pictures here with John Mutton with Christine Elliott and John Mutton with
funny thing was,
Stephen Lecce. And John
Mutton was very happy when Guidon was arrested a few years ago. We got to get this man off our streets from trafficking and drugs. Now he's buddy with him.
Mm-hmm. And John Mutton officiating, now mayor of Ajax-on Collier's wedding. You'll recall that that's where Greenbelt sales have already occurred.
Oh, yeah.
This John Mutton guy seems to be absolutely everywhere and seems to know absolutely everyone.
Weird how that works. Huh?
How convenient. NDP leader, sorry, no, not an NDP leader, but a lot of people are thinking that this scandal finally will knock a bit of Teflon off Doug Ford, particularly the presence of Mr. X in this, because it's getting harder for people to buy the argument that Doug Ford is doing this for us, the little guys.
Well,
and offering like $1 million success fees, and this is not.
He's not doing a damn thing for anybody but his wealthy friends. And here's another case in point. Ontario Ombudsman releases damning report on long-term care system during COVID, concludes inspections collapsed, and there were none for 7 weeks in the spring of 2020. The Ontario government relied on homes self-reporting, and there was a lack of accountability. Why would a for-profit venture that Mike Harris is heavily involved with report when things have gone south on them?
Mm-hmm.
That would affect their bottom line, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. It would.
So Doug pulled the mandatory inspections and let them self-report.
Mm-hmm. Now it is looking like Ryan Amato may have been smart to lawyer up. The Inspector General identified Amato as the ringleader and says that there's no evidence that he had received his orders from Doug Ford directly, even though that's what Ryan Amato was telling others. Now, everybody is saying that Ryan Amato was saying all these things to inflate himself, but I'm starting to wonder if this is looking like the plan all along was to make Amato the scapegoat. Because I don't think that the Premier was interviewed by the Inspector General.
No.
And it's kind of easy to have no evidence that you didn't receive your orders from a certain person, if you don't actually interview that person. And of course, like we said, the system was set up so that once they brought Ryan Amato in, that neither Clark nor Ford asked any questions. So if you're looking at the period from the time that Amato was brought in, then of course there's no evidence that he received his orders from Doug Ford, because all the orders would have been given beforehand. That's why he received them all through envelopes when he went to industry dinners. Right? Yeah, Amato's probably smart to lawyer up here. Now, as for our opposition leaders, they had some very interesting things to say as well. NDP leader Merritt Stiles threw some shade on Andrea Horvath.
Mm-hmm.
And a surprise. Well, she's a mayor of Hamilton now, so she's going to have her own relationship with the government and things. But I absolutely think this is a sham, and I think Ontarians know it as well. First of all, we've had 2 reviews already, both by independent officers of the legislature. This latest, and both of them were damning reports, but this latest one by the Integrity Commissioner that I requested back in December shows you deep corruption and collusion. And so the idea that the government's response is to conduct another review, well, it's a colossal waste of our time and our money, and it's not going to solve the problem. In fact, I would argue it's designed to just distract from what's really happening here, which is that the government set this whole process up in order to basically gift some very wealthy developers who are connected to the Conservative Party and to the Premier with $1 billion deal. And also, by the way, from the fact that the land should have never been removed in the first place. It is completely contrary to the recommendations of a task force of the Premier's own task force of housing committees and experts, and over again saying that this land should not be used for this purpose. And in fact, you know that this whole process has just simply delayed our attempts to address the actual housing crisis. In that press conference, Doug Ford had announced that he was doing a review of all the green belt lands. Now, he would not specifically say whether that meant that work on those 14 plots would continue or whether or not they would be suspended. And during that press conference, he kept on talking about 14 recommendations as well. Now, the 15th recommendation that he keeps ignoring was to review the shit job he's done. Now, he's saying that he's announcing the review, but it's clearly not the review that the Auditor General asked for, and that he's going to review everything. So, in politics, a common thing when you have a story that is going bad is bury it in process. So a review that he did not want to do a month ago, because the Auditor General requested, is now a review that he's now saying he's going to do a review, but he's going to review absolutely everything. So what are the odds that this review is going to identify more lands that could be opened up rather? And he doesn't say specifically whether or not this review will focus any specific or very special attention on those 14 plots or start with those 14 plots or 15 plots or however number they are to see whether or not they should be returned. So it's just whether or not they're going to be included in the whole thing. And I'm guessing that since work on them is not halting until the review is over, and a review of that large a massive territory, I'm sure is going to take more than 3 weeks. Because I'm sure at this time they will need to, and this time, of course, they're going to consult with the Indigenous community because now they care about them. Even though they didn't do it this time, and even though they keep on lying about the 17 times that the Liberals made some slight adjustments, that there was no consultation with the Indigenous community when there was. There was a whole consultative process with that. So he's still lying about that. That's what I mean. It's like no matter how many times you tell him right to his face, he says, why are you lying about this? Right? We had this journalist says, I wrote this story. I researched myself. Why are you lying? 2 days later, he was out there saying the exact same thing. It doesn't matter. He is committed to his bit. He's committed to his lie, and he cannot go off script. But he is lying.
No.
He is lying completely. It's crazy. And it seems that it's starting to look like this process here because he has this rule, right? It's like if there's nothing, like no shovels in the ground by like 2025, you got to give those lands back. But we discovered that one of the lands that he took back is because a developer took it and was trying to flip some of it. Well, if what that the mayor of the Durham region says that these lands cannot have anything built upon them for about 25 years because it will take that much time to make them ready, then if the shovel is supposed to be in the ground by 2025, that's completely impossible. So why unblock those lands in the first place? So now I'm starting to wondering if the plan all along was to unlock those lands, hope that nobody would notice it, and that the developers wouldn't develop. They would just flip. Yeah. All of them were just flip. And by the time we find out 25 years from now, well, everybody's long gone.
Well, I mean, come on, look, which was the one developer that borrowed $100 million at 20% interest?
Yeah.
To buy a chunk of land? Obviously, it's for a flip. Because the land in 2016 was valued at 8.3. Now it's valued at $24 billion. I'm not saying that particular piece with the $100 million, but let's just say if you're going to borrow $100 million at 20% interest, you're probably looking at a gigantic profit margin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like an obscene profit margin.
Yeah. And we know that they're everywhere, right? They've got that Ontario place, they got the Ontario Science Centre deal. So the NDP has now recently released information about connections between some of these same players and the Ontario Place deal. Surprise, surprise. So this just keeps on growing and growing and growing. And now,
It
during
never
that
ends.
disastrous press conference in which Doug Ford proposed this new review in which he's going to drown a review, and he's claiming that this review is not the Auditor General thing, but based on what the Liberals said in the past, that these things have to be reviewed at least every 10 years. No, it's not at least every 10 years. Should be reviewed every 10 years.
That's right.
The last review was not 10 years ago.
No, 10 months ago.
You just did.
10 months ago.
You just did a review right now to free up these plots of lands, buddy. So all of us now, like, while with one hand he's sticking the knife into the Liberals, lying, saying they did this 17 times and they did it without any consultation and legally, like, which is no. Because they're saying we're following the advice of the Liberals now that told us that we need to review this. He's just such a liar, and he's terrible at it. And within this large 1 hour rambling, literally rambling, disjointed, disconnected, untethered press conference in which he threw everything. It literally was a kitchen sink. He was a hero, and he was talking about healthcare and seniors and providing 4 hours of care for seniors and a whole bunch of things that had nothing to do with this, just throwing them in. And one of the things specifically that he was talking about is he went after the governors of the Bank of Canada, because
Tiff,
the
yeah,
Premier
saw
of
that.
British Columbia wrote a letter to the governor of the Bank of Canada begging them to not raise interest rates. So Doug Ford got in on that action because, of course, he needs to divert, but he didn't write a letter. He just made a public call. And then the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, Fury, also sent a letter, right? So we have premiers of 3 different provinces of 3 different stripes pressuring the Bank of Canada. So in one sense, that looks good because it looks like it crosses all parties.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is that, well, let's put it this way. Ford said, I plead to the Bank of Canada, the governor, go out there and talk to the average person like I do. Go out there and meet the people that are struggling, people that can't afford a mortgage because of rate hikes. Not just the hikes, but the speed that you did it at. 10 hikes. I can't remember. And then a time in living memory when the Bank of Canada governor raised rates 10 times in 18 months. If we don't see it stop, people will lose their homes. Right? So he's got like painting this picture because, listen, nobody likes him. And the only person that people don't like than politicians are faceless bankers.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts a little hat and puts a little mustache on it. These bankers are raising the interest rates. They want you to lose your homes. You want to see something that goes right? Just raise interest rates. I swear you, things will get really bad. Former Bank of Canada Governor David Wallace. It's not surprising at all that the premiers talked to the bank. They do that by just picking up the phone. And that's the useful way to do it. So it's a bit of grandstanding.
Oh, yeah.
But the discussions that the premiers are raising is exactly the difficult issue that the bank is working with. Have we gone far enough to deal with the inflationary pressures so that now is the time to stop and at some point, hopefully, to get the rates down, David Wallace says. So you have to understand, kids and cubs, that this is a no-risk strategy for premiers because the Bank of Canada is not supposed to listen to them. So major grandstanding, no risk, no impact. Now, had they wanted to make this point in a constructive way, they would have drawn the bank's attention to consumer debt and saying, I'm hoping that the bank takes into consideration high levels of consumer debt when they make their decision. But, the bankers, it's like, look at us. We're trying to build homes. We're even breaking laws and like associating with gangsters and people with connections to Hell Angels to get the houses built. That's just how much we want to get them built for you. But oh my God, look at those banks. Oh, jeez. Like, come on. The banks really want to kick you out of their homes. No, they're trying to cool demand. So yeah, he just like joined right in there and said, yeah, me too. Just threw that in there. Now, I have no time for Tom Mulcair, but he did
Right.
say something that was somewhat interesting. There's a doctrinaire answer to whether or not anybody should interfere, but this isn't interference, he says. This is part of the context in which the decision has to be taken. It's not sacrosanct that no one can have an opinion or express one about what the Bank of Canada should or shouldn't do, expressing the concerns for the average family in your province. That's healthy. And of course, they're not going to reference those letters in their decision, but it doesn't mean they're not going to take it into account. And if it were really on a knife's edge, maybe it would have an effect of bringing it on the side of prudence and not having a rate hike. I don't think that a rate hike was actually in the works, so I think that there's actually a bit of politics involved in this, but nothing surprising. The political season has started again. Mulcair is wrong on this because there is a difference between expressing the concerns of your citizens and editorializing said concern by attributing blame and potentially ill motive when making public comments. And when a premier is directly writing the governor of the Bank of Canada, that's probably a form of direct lobbying, and that's probably a big no-no. So as David Dodge says, you can just pick up the phone and call the bank and say, here's the situation that's going on in my province. You should be aware of it. One gives the bank governors the real information they need in order to make a decision, but does not in any way suggest what that decision should be.
Right.
Those three premiers crossed the line hugely in writing directly or making public appeals as to what that decision should be. And Mulcair's incorrect. These pleas, no matter how passionate, no matter how many crocodile tales are accompanying them, will not be taken into account by the bank because the bank has one mandate: inflation, and one mandate only. And these pleas will not tip something over a knife's edge if it's close, as Mulcair says. What could have made a difference, as I mentioned, is making the point that the bank might need to look closer at and consider more carefully at this time impact of a rate hike on total consumer debt. But saying the bank needs to do this or else the bank is the one that you should look at to blame for kicking you out of your home and not making it, no. Just out of order. Completely out of order. It's not what you do. Mr. Grizzly, I think that's enough for today.
I'm exhausted.
I'm just
wiped out.
All this since Monday.
Yeah, and
when we're talking about them flooding the zone to exhaust us.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
This is it. There should, listen to me, kids. There should not be this much news about this one subject in the space of 1 week. That's your sign right there that something's wrong. Dezoning and rezoning for this should be the most boring subject on the face of the planet that we should have no interest in because it is so drip dryingly want to stick your eyeballs out with knitting needles. Boring. And yet we have free Raptors tickets and $1 million signings fees and ties to the Hells Angels and Satan's group and a company that's an unregistered lobbyist that hawks cannabis and psilocybin solutions with people who are bodybuilders and have sneaky connections to a whole bunch of people who seem to love documenting their crimes in real time and bragging to the world about them.
Nothing to see here. Literally nothing to see here. Don't look over here. I know. It's just a level of corruption that is just beyond belief.
I throw my hands up.
Yeah.
And it's Friday, and it's not because, hey, the party's over here. Whoa.
No, it's exasperation.
This is a direct strategy. It's a deliberate strategy to try to exhaust us, to make it so complicated and so shady and so just that we just, you know what? And as Danielle says, unfortunately, we can't afford to get exhausted. That is not a luxury that we have. It's not a luxury that we have. All right, kids. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast. And thank you to Mr. Grizzly for doing some yeoman's work here today. We hope that you enjoyed listening to us because we love making this for you. This is nowhere near all I had set aside over the last 4 days. This, amazingly enough, was the Coles notes. Yeah, scary. There's so much news. Word of mouth is priceless, and you have the mouths from whom we want the word coming. So please, 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 if you can, share with your peeps and poops, tell everyone about us. And because democracy is something that you do, if you are in Manitoba, please make sure with Elections Manitoba that you are indeed on the registered voters list. Make sure that your information is up to date and updated. Take some time to do that. Start thinking about what your vote plan is. Start thinking about who you want to bring to vote with you. Remember, friends don't let friends vote alone. So if you're planning to vote, you should be planning to vote. So make your plan and make a plan to bring some friends or a couple friends with you. Really important. Of course, donate to the Red Cross. And of course, please keep writing your MLAs, your MNAs, your MPPs, your MPs, your senators, your media, all of that. Tell them not to let go of the story. And if you are in Ontario, please, 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 as Dave Wallace keeps on saying, the only way that this is going to happen is if you pick up the phone and you decide that you want a meeting with your MPP and that you're showing up at the constituency office to protest and to demand a meeting. And particularly if you live in an electoral district where there is a Ontario PC member representing to you, the only way that we get rid of Doug Ford before his term is up is if we let every MPP in the Ontario caucus know that their job security is going to be threatened if they do not, as a caucus, get together and to throw Ford overboard. That's the one power that we do have, is when we have a government that has a majority, it's demanding a meeting, a performance review meeting with every MPP from that party and saying, I will make it my mission. I will set an alarm clock at 3:00 in the morning to wake up, to find time and make time to make sure you lose next election. If you do not, as a caucus member, demand that guy step down. That's the only way to get rid of him before the 4 years. So Ontario, this is the time to roll up your sleeves, put on your marching boots, and go to that office and let your views known. Right? If you would like to follow us, you can do that on our Podpage site, sponsored by The Way Girl. Thank you very much. So you go to podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words, and that will bring you to our site. And if you subscribe there, we will come to you as soon as we have something fresh off the bandwidth. And that's the squiggly that's right under my shoulder there. And
the QR code.
Yes. And since we are talking about subscribing, then make like Kit Elaine, who says, have a beyond awesome day all, and remember to smash the button before you leave. Like, share, subscribe. 3 of our favorite words, except for free beer today.
Yes.
So do that. Smash those buttons. If you need a little mood lighting before you smash, hey, we don't judge. We don't judge. So that little squiggly by Mr. Grizzly's head there brings you to our coffee page. So if you like the work that we have done, if you want to help Mr. Beaver get a new computer, if you particularly loved the interview that we did yesterday, if you think we did a good job, or if you're just feeling sorry for me, I have no shame. I will take your pity. I will. That little squiggly by Mr. Grizzly's head brings you to our coffee page. And if you are listening, you use your voice command or your lovely digits on your lovely hands to bring you to coffee. That's ko-fi.com/Eager Beaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that will bring you to the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where your contribution can help keep us moist. There you go. All right, from the Beaver Lodge, this is your eager beaver saying, kids, it could be a tough world out there. Oh, boy, do I know it. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please.
Well, pay attention to the conservative thing that's going on in Quebec City, if you can find any news about it, because they've basically blocked all journalism and all journalists from being there.
Yeah.
They're free. They're all about freedom, unless they don't want you to know something, in which case you don't have freedom of the press because they've taken that away from you. So pay attention to what's going on in Quebec City. I'm reading here from our correspondent, Crier Media correspondent, Jason Pugh. Apparently, I didn't see this. I just came across my thread, and it was posted at 12:22 a.m. Pierre Poilievre, CPC, just gave their full-throated support of the Ottawa occupation by insurrectionists.
Oh.
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to try and find it.
Yeah. And it's like you mentioned, there's a journalist, Nora Loreto, who has been posting on Twitter, well, I've now been told I will go to jail if I interview delegates for this convention from the head of security to the party.
Yeah. Freedom, right? Freedom.
Yep. Remove the gatekeepers.
Freedom for me, not for thee.
Yeah, Nora and Karima should go out for ice cream together. I'm sure they could have some stories to share.
No doubt. No doubt.
Unbelievable. All right, Mr. Grizzly, roll them credits, please.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
All right, kids, and 4 quick little tidbits before we go. In Ontario, the first poll to be released following all the scandals with Doug Ford shows that the Ontario Progressive Conservatives have dropped 7 points in the last little bit.
Imagine that.
So people are paying attention, and it's not going to get better. Yesterday, the Bank of Governor Tiff Macklem said, if governments were to increase the rate of growth of spending, that would make it more difficult to get inflation back to the target, which had Skippy crowing. So there it is, my thesis of the last 3 years. Now the governor of the Bank of Canada agrees government spending growth causes inflation. Okay, number one, all spending contributes to inflation. You idiot. That includes the spending from your campaign to destroy the nation with lies, smears, defamation, and foreign-sponsored disinformation, political influence campaigns, or your $7,000 stored away water bill.
Yeah.
Okay, you're no better. Or all your provincial premiers giving $500 rebate checks and all that kind of stuff, right? Which we want the people who can least afford it to be able to not fall through the cracks. But all of those things contribute to inflation. All spending contributes to inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Your thesis has not been proven. Okay. Stateside, that shriveled up rolled raisin, Peter Navarro, has been found guilty of contempt of Congress. And
I saw that.
Yes, a friend of the Beaver Lodge, your old pal Jake, who was there, says he deserves the full 2 years. We agree. We posted something on our Twitter feed with a little clip of Jake's making the case for that. So please take a look at that. And darn, there was the fourth thing, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, and it was the more important.
It's okay. I've got a clip that I'm putting in. Not a clip, a link I just put into the chat. 2023 Conservative Convention, Michelle and Barbara Maisonneuve keynote addresses. It's linked to cpac.ca. It's in the chat if you want to check it out. You can hear their apparently, again, as I just said a few minutes ago, their full-throated support for the convoy. Full-throated support of the Ottawa occupation by insurrectionists. So I'm going to have a look at that after we go off the air, and we can talk about it on Monday, maybe.
All right. That seems good to me. All right. Kids and cubs, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
See ya.
Eesh.